the commission's involved. So the objective, of course, is to keep workforce development at a high priority within the Eastern Shore, with three primary goals of workforce development. One is to assure that that the growth of Eastern Shore businesses and public institutions continue to be resilient because of a sustained pipeline of talent that is supporting them. Secondly, that every adult and every student has the opportunity to achieve their economic aspirations by appropriate education and training. And thirdly, to, of course, contribute to the overall economic health of the Eastern Shore. Sometimes when people think about workforce development, they think about a training program, and certainly that's included in workforce development, but really is a broader idea that I want to frame for the purpose of this forum. The term really describes a range of activities that assure those objectives are realized, both recruiting talent to the shore by developing talent that is on the shore, and to retain a reliable and viable workforce to assure that business objectives are realized, institutions can achieve high performance. There are kind of three elements that I want to focus on that are essential to a workforce development focus. One is the educational institutions, and that includes K-12. And as you probably have heard, that this administration, like others, have really set an objective to ensure that every student, to the best degree possible, is prepared for work, for a career, or for higher education upon leaving the K-12 system. Now, that focus of the educational element is to focus on the individual and their economic sustainability. Then there are the economic development leaders and the political leaders of the Eastern Shore who are focusing really on looking at what's the economic resiliency of the Eastern Shore. And that focus is on the community and the community health and the impact that a workforce has on community health. The third element is really looking at the employers. You know, the business employers are certainly looking for competitive benefit, looking for resiliency and sustainability. And the public organizations certainly need talent to achieve high performance, and those are critical objectives. So we have the three: the educational institutions, which include K-12, certainly include the Eastern Shore Community College, which is a robust bridge from high school to work, high school to higher education, or career. The community development organizations really look at it from a community value perspective, while businesses and employers look at it from enterprise point of view. The next slide, even though these are independent elements in many ways, they only really work effectively if they have a sense of integration. If you see on this slide, we have the education and learning resources, which include the Eastern Shore Community College, K-12, and the surrounding higher education institutions that really surround the Eastern Shore, and the industry and employment sectors. And there are multiple of those. We have the legacy sectors on the Eastern Shore, plus some new sectors that are emerging. And of course, the overall vision. Now, so that what this is trying to represent is really that they don't replace each other. They really need to be synchronized in such a way that they support each other in the overall goal of developing the workforce, as we described earlier. We are, as you know, if you follow the news a lot, there are a lot of challenges to workforce development these days, and those impact Eastern Shore as well. But we do have this legacy economy. It's powerful, it's strong, and it's been the strength of the Eastern Shore and continues to be that. This is mostly food production, agriculture, aquaculture. We have Tyson's and Purdue, which are major economic influences, and we certainly need to assure their support. There are emerging economic forces also on the Eastern Shore, so the synchronization of those is one of the challenges that will be part of the next 5 to 10 years. It's important that, and as Ann mentioned, I do some work in this area, but not in this area, not in the geographical area, that one of the biggest challenges we have today in workforce development is ensuring that being trained once is not enough. The rest of your life, you're going to be needing to continue to attain new knowledge, new skills, because of the rapid change that's going on. The pandemic accelerated these changes already were in place. So that's going to be a challenge. Can our workforce development systems adapt at the rate of change as the employers will need to accomplish? And then, of course, the environmental factors on the Eastern Shore to create a compelling argument for living here and staying here to attract and retain qualified talent. And that includes amenities that make life worthwhile and exciting. We need a wide range of residential cost points to support the diverse workforce. Quality schools, I hear that sometimes when people think about moving here, the younger families. Diverse and quality service providers, that's the restaurants, the other kinds of services, and of course, a strong broadband backbone to support the growth of business and the economy. My goal as the host was to kind of frame the focus, frame the objectives, and frame what we see as the integrated elements of workforce development. The following speakers will bring some rich depth to those points and from their own point of view and their own perspectives. So I want to introduce our first speaker today will be David Pierce, who is the director of the Wallops Flight Facility, and he has has several of his executives with him in this presentation.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having us here today. Thank you, David. Thanks on behalf of myself and my staff here with me today, Ms. Hope Garrison, who's our deputy for business. Hope oversees our workforce planning and our workforce strategy for the facility at Wallops. And I'm also joined by Dr. Joyce Winterton. Dr. Winterton leads our education team at Wallops, and together between our workforce strategy of recruitment, of development, retention, and promotion, combined with Dr. Joyce Winterton and our educational activities across the Commonwealth, we have a strategy on how to build jobs at the Wallops complex. Let me start first, Dave, by talking about the fact that this is a very exciting time for all of us who are devoted to aerospace and space exploration in the Commonwealth, and especially for the Goddard Space Flight Center team located at Wallops Flight Facility. Wallops is a very special place in the history of the Eastern Shore. We're in our 77th year, having been founded by Langley in Hampton Roads, Virginia. And it positions the Commonwealth and Virginia, especially on the Eastern Shore, in a very good place for the future with aviation, aerospace, manufacturing, supply chain jobs in the future to the benefit of the Eastern Shore. Next slide, please. I just wanted to highlight what our work is at Wallops. As you know, I mean, you just have to look at the news just a little bit these days to see how much Wallops is in the news in terms of aerospace. We're literally on the brink of a new era of space exploration at NASA, and it's happening at Wallops. Our budget is strong at over $330 million, plus reimbursable work. And we do that through our sounding rockets, our balloons, our aircraft, our small satellites, but it all comes together in our launch range. We are a multi-user, multi-agency facility. We like to say we're for NASA, but we're also for the nation. We support the DoD. We are home to the Navy. We support the Space Force and the Air Force. We support the Marine Corps. And of course, we support the Army, doing things like launching rockets for them, flying aircraft for them, having their aircraft come to our facility and do touch and goes. So we are all about supporting the Department of Defense as a test and operations center, working with the fleet and working with our counterparts in the Coast Guard, with the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, that's located at Wallops. So, and also our Virginia Space, the Virginia Commercial Spaceflight Authority, that has the Virginia Mars Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport located at Wallops. So all together with all of our partners, we come together to advance aerospace, aviation, and exploration in the Commonwealth on the Eastern Shore. I'm not sure how much you know about NASA Wallops and the work that we're doing. We have a cadre of scientists and engineers conducting research on our suborbital vehicles, the aircraft, the scientific balloons, the sounding rockets. We have an engineering team that develops small satellites and advanced technologies for the next generation of launch vehicles and technologies that will one day fly on satellites, both in the low Earth orbit, studying the sun, studying our Earth, or studying the cosmos. But it's all about doing cutting edge science, cutting edge technology, and of course, our support for our astronauts on the International Space Station. 2021 was a very big year for the Wallops team in spite of the pandemic. We launched over 27 missions with 100% success. And 2022 is going to be even bigger. Next slide, please. Our economic impact, recently we did a economic impact study working with Virginia Space, conducted by Old Dominion University, and it found that we had an economic impact touching over 6,000 jobs on the Eastern Shore, and an economic impact of nearly $1.4 billion a year. We have a direct impact of about 820 million, and indirect impact through tourism and internships, through expanding businesses, support businesses, of about $284 million. And I mentioned all of our partners that make up the Wallops complex. Next slide, please. About half of our workforce lives in Virginia. And of that, 90% of our employees that live in Virginia live in Accomack County. We have been named, NASA's been named the best place to work for 9 years in a row. And we're very proud of that. We're proud of our employees. We're proud of the fact that we work really hard to balance what our employees need to between work and home, and still getting the mission done safely. We have been working really hard. Ms. Garrison working with the Navy and our team to develop a child development center that we need to attract new employees to come to the facility, as well as what kind of training, what kind of work experiences do our employees need. We created an equity plan in the wake of George Floyd's murder in 2020 to build a better workforce. We are all about growing this workforce of the 21st century, what we call the Artemis generation, the generation that's going to go to the moon and live there sustainably and then go on to Mars. We want the highest skilled, most diverse workforce possible at Wallops. And under Ms. Garrison's leadership, we've reached out to Accomack County schools to develop the National Society of Black Engineers Junior program. We're doing other kinds of internship programs with Eastern Shore Community College. We sign agreements, all kinds of activities so that we can grow that workforce that we need. So we're very proud of that. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our colleagues to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing to develop that workforce on the Eastern Shore. Next slide, please.
Okay. My name is Hope Garrison. I'm the Deputy Director for Business at Wallops. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. NASA Wallops Flight Facility is looking to recruit engineers and technicians to support the multitude of projects we're looking forward to over the next 5 years. The specific engineering disciplines we're seeking include aerospace, mechanical, electrical, software, environmental, facility, and systems engineering. We are also seeking technicians to support our ground operations on our range in support of these projects. In addition to these positions, we have a host of professional administrative positions on site as well, including education coordinators, budget analysts, procurement officers, and management analysts. In an effort to acquire and maintain a diverse and talented workforce, Wallace incorporates numerous hiring strategies. One strategy is through the use of our internship programs. Our internship programs enable us to offer work opportunities to college students with the chance of converting them to civil servant positions upon graduation. Term or temporary appointments are also used by Wallops. By using term appointments, it allows an incumbent the opportunity to perform work and develop new skills for a period not to exceed 6 years. After the term appointment is over, the employee may be converted to a permanent civil service position. Our extensive contractor workforce also provides internship opportunities as well to give employees opportunities for permanent positions within that company. Our contractor workforce is an excellent pipeline for Wallop's technical lead and civil servant management positions. One of the risks we anticipate over the next 5 years involves our aging workforce. Currently, we estimate a third of our workforce will be retirement eligible, with roughly 15% actually retiring within that time frame. This dynamic is driving the need for us to increase our recruitment efforts within the local community in an effort to hire employees who have roots within the community to increase the likelihood of those employees staying at Wallops. As I mentioned earlier, we are pursuing ways to acquire and maintain a talented and diverse workforce at Wallops. With that goal in mind, and through Dave's leadership, we have developed a Wallops equity plan, as Dave mentioned earlier. The equity plan encompasses 3 objectives. 1, strengthen efforts within Wallops to create a more diverse pipeline for hiring and promotions. 2, to strengthen our outreach and community engagement to create a pipeline for potential employment at Wallops. And 3, to create a culture of inclusion at Wallops to retain that workforce. A few of the things we have done in support of our commitment to community engagement and outreach include entering into agreements with the local colleges and universities within the area, which include Old Dominion University, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and Eastern Shore Community College to provide bilateral support to each other for the good of the community. We've also established, as Dave mentioned, a National Society of Black Engineers Junior chapter, or NESRE Junior, in Accomack County last year, so students could participate in college prep and CAD workshops. Some of our future activities under this plan include the formation of a regional consortium of colleges and universities to develop relationships and enhance student interest in STEM. This plan shows a lot of potential to help local high school and college students develop skills in STEM related work by leveraging their locus to the best science and engineering organization in the world, which is NASA. This relationship helps NASA as it creates a potential pipeline of local talent. It helps our local students develop the skills to pursue exciting careers in STEM. And it helps the community at large by increasing the number of job opportunities in the area for local residents. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce to you our Senior Advisor for Education and Leadership Development, Dr. Joyce Winterton.
Thank you, Hope. As you can see from this slide, there are a number of things that we do in education in the lower part of Virginia Eastern Shore. For K through 12, we have education internships as well as for higher education, and these are paid internships as well. We also do a number of workshops where we actually, when we're not involved with COVID and restricted, bring them to Wallops so they actually get that real world experience and they can see themselves as a future employee of Wallops, for NASA, our contractors, or even the universities we work with. And we do start at the middle school, not only with the students, but we also do educator workshops for middle and high school educators, as well as faculty in our community colleges and universities. You'll see the photo on the far right. That's one of our Wallops Rocket Academies, where we bring educators in and they learn the physics and science of model rocketry, and have a number of them have added those to their curriculum. It's very important for us that we tie to our missions. So we actually show students and educators the real world application of why you need those science, technology, engineering, and math skills and how you apply them. We also do a lot of work to show that the students really can succeed at Wallops and build their confidence. So we work closely with a number of different partners, our universities, our school districts here on the Eastern Shore, to make sure we're providing them the kind of experiences they need. An example, we do a Virginia Community College faculty workshop where we use real world examples and case studies. And they look at what critical decisions Wallops had to make on our missions, and then they make their own decision and benchmark it against what we did. So again, it's showing how you work in teams, but across teams at NASA and with our partnership. So we always want to work with our regional partnerships, finding more ways that we can work together. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, David, Hope, and Dr. Winterton. I think this is a clear message about achieving mission and objectives through a robust workforce and robust workforce development system, and then the value that brings really into the community, and that's much appreciated. The next speaker is coming from the other end of the Virginia Eastern Shore, Brandon Mowry, who's the Director of Business Development for Coastal Precast Systems.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Like to thank Ann and Dave and Jessica for having this thing. Like to thank NASA for all they do. That was pretty impressive. But now that we're done talking about the simple operations of space exploration, let's talk about concrete. We can go to the next slide there, Dave. So my name is Brandon Mowry. I'm Director of Business Development and Marketing here at Coastal Precast. As you see from here, we've got over 73 years of experience, going on 3 years in Cape Charles. I'm not going to go through everything here, but my grandfather started the company back in 1946. He was a World War II vet. We started as a ready-mix outfit up in Du Bois, Pennsylvania, and over the years expanded down to Texas, Northern Virginia, and then down here in Chesapeake, where I'm at right now. It's our headquarters now. And out of Chesapeake, we started producing sound wall panels. And from that, we got into a little more bigger risk projects, I guess you could say, with bridges and marine structures. You see there, 2007 was our first big job. That was a $25 million bridge job where we did 1,000 girders. And funny story, our CEO, when asked, we've never done bridge beams before. And when they asked him, can you do this job? How many bridge beams have you done? He said, do you want my answer or the salesman answer? Which was 0. We've done 0, but they gave us a shot at that. And from that job, we really just propelled and expanded down to Wilmington. And now, as I said, Cape Charles back in 2019 was our first full year of operations. Next slide. So out of Cape Charles in that short amount of time, the first project we actually completed was Electric Boat. Kind of a funny name, but they're a company that builds ships and submarines for the Navy. And the facility we built up there, it's hard to kind of see from this slide, but it's a giant facility. It's about 150 foot tall. That's where they'll bring some of the segments of the sub into Connecticut. And then actually that barge you see at the back end there, they'll put the parts and pieces on that barge and send it down this way to put together the new class sub here in Newport News, which is pretty exciting that here in this area, you know, we produce some of the most advanced technology out there in the water. We're also working on the HRBT expansion, which I know a lot of us are thinking is long overdue. So actually in Cape Charles right now, we're not actually producing it, but we're lending out the grounds and producing the concrete for all the tunnel liners that are going to go in there. And then we're also ourselves producing all the pile and beams for the bridges that are going to be part of the expansion. And other than that, we've done the Harry Nice Bridge. We're almost done with our bit of work for that. The bridge itself probably won't be done for another year, but that's the bridge that connects Maryland to Virginia on Route 301. I have yet to be on it, but it's a very impressive bridge. And it's just to show you kind of how important that little chunk of land in Cape Charles is to our nation's infrastructure and national security. I'll touch on kind of the exciting next step to what we're looking at down the road here coming up from Cape Charles. Next slide. So at our Eastern Shore plant, Cape Charles, we have over 160 employees there. I was surprised. I ran a study back when we were looking to expand and successfully purchased some land adjacent to our property. I just wanted to kind of collect some raw data for the town of Cape Charles in my presentation, and found that actually 83% of our employees live in Northampton and Accomack counties, which was surprised me. I thought we had a lot more coming over the bridge, but it was really refreshing to see that, you know, they're supporting that local economy over there. Much like NASA, we have a very diverse workforce. I mean, it's any age, sex, you know, race you could possibly imagine we have working for us. It's great to get that exposure. And we're also very well equipped, and we do a good job of hiring vets. And actually down in Wilmington, half of our workforce down there are current and former inmates. So they'll actually bring the bus down, and we do a work release program with the guys down there. Something that we're looking at possibly doing here in Chesapeake and possibly Cape Charles, but to really work down there, you know, those are some of our best employees, are guys that, you know, get a second shot at life, and they show up every day and they really do a great job. Another thing I wanted to point out is, as you see here, the upward mobility down below. That's something else that we really pride ourselves on, that we can promote from, you know, outside, inside, here in the office. And that's field staff. And really, if you look at the bold there, that could show kind of what an expectation of, if you want to call it a salary, most of the guys outside would be, you know, hourly, but that's how much they're bringing home every year. And, you know, the reason I'm pointing that out is the biggest thing we battle with is this misconception of, you know, kids graduate high school and they want to go to college because they think once they graduate college, they get that great job and, you know, off to retirement someday. And I know personally speaking, when I graduated, I actually went to grad school, got a master's, and graduated and had, you know, student debt up to my eyeballs, and actually took a job at Dick's Sporting Goods for a year because I couldn't find a job out of college. We have a guy here who's now worked up to plant manager here in Chesapeake, and he came to me one day when I first started, and he said, "Man, I should have gone to college. You know, I could have had a desk job like you." I said, "Listen," I said, "you just bought a brand new Corvette, your house is paid for, and you're 32 years old." I said, "You're in a lot better financial position than I am right now, you know, driving a 2006 Honda Accord and trying to pay my student debt off." So it's just a misconception that, you know, you work in this industry and hard work doesn't mean a lot of money. It does. I mean, well, you can quickly move up here and make, you know, very respectable amount of money per year. Next slide. So what we look for, it's a little bit different than the NASA folks. I get that. Ours is more, you know, the common sense side of things. And experience. I know everybody talks about experience, but really for us, it's such a niche market that really goes a long way. And some of our best employees that move up the fastest are guys that are actually home builders. And the simple fact that they can read blueprints and digest what that's saying and then put it into the big picture that's a skill unto itself that in any part of the construction industry will really, I mean, give you an advantage over anybody else. Discernment, that's a polite way I was saying of common sense. I mean, just not being so, laser focused down on something. You got to really have a peripheral of what's going on and see the big picture for these things. And our biggest thing with product that we produce is being proactive. If you see that something isn't placed in the proper space in, say, a beam or a girder, being proactive in fixing that before we start pouring concrete, because we're talking about one piece could be $50,000, and the second you pour that concrete and it sets, I mean, that could ruin a whole piece. So we really, it's paying attention to the details and also having the big picture to step back and look at what you're doing. We deal so much with measurements that sometimes guys get so focused into feet and inches that they'll have a little bit of dyslexia, if that makes sense. And instead of sitting back and saying it's supposed to be 3 feet, not 3 inches, that really goes a long way also. And that's a pretty simple skill you could teach our labor force, how to read a tape measure, how to read simple blueprints. It really goes a long way. And I think, helps them in life kind of take a step back and really use your common sense on things. Active hard workers, safe individuals, that's kind of a mentality that we go for. It's hard to train somebody to be a hard worker. But here it's the thing I love about our industry is every day it's changing. There's something different. It's never a mundane clock in, clock out type atmosphere. You've got to really think on your feet. And then, bilingual Spanish, we've been there as a country for almost 30 years now. That's nothing new, but still with the diversity we have here, having that as a second language, really, communication's so important in our industry. Again, going back to the details I'm talking about, that's really something special there. Barriers, I kind of touched on the preconceived notion of the hard work industry that we're in, that will kind of chew you up and spit you out and you won't make much money. Just isn't true. We have plenty of guys here that have, we've celebrated 25, 30-year reunion or anniversaries with just this year. Unskilled labor shortage, it is an issue. I think everybody in our industry is feeling it. Part of the reason is we've got some big jobs going on around here that take a lot of great labor away from us. We've got we'll also have some guys in the summertime. Something we deal with is they'll go over to work landscaping businesses because it's a comparable salary and they're not out in the sun as much. But that's something we battle, and we've actually used a temp service around here that they supply some great workers for us, and that's really helped fill a void that we've felt, especially with COVID and even a couple of years before COVID. It's really been tough to find unskilled labor. Skilled labor, again, going into that, teaching, maybe college isn't the best for everybody. Maybe go, to community college, maybe get some of those trade schools. I think we really need to start advertising trade schools a little more, especially there on the Eastern Shore. I think we got a great resource there with the community college. And then our employee retention is always tough. I'd say probably out of 10 guys, we keep 1 to 2 of them. And those are good workers for years and years down the road. But it just takes a lot of turnover to find the guys that, really fit with what we're doing here. Next slide. And then this is kind of what I touched on earlier with all the infrastructure and national security that we do here and how important that chunk of land in Cape Charles is. I think in the future, it's going to be even more important. I mean, we've calculated over 2,000 wind farms that are already the land's been carved out, the finances are about worked out, and they're ready to go, especially under the Biden administration. They're really trying to push forward and get things moving. And I don't know if anybody's read about what Dominion's got going on out there, but they've got 188 wind farms that have already been contracted out, and it's happening. In a couple of years, they should start putting those into the ground. But we've been meeting with some guys, as I mentioned before, with the help of Cape Charles. We successfully purchased 2 adjacent properties next to us, 11 acres and 56 acres, with the intent that we can attract some of these guys, whether it's, as you see here, guys that do the cable pads, which that's literally just concrete that lays over the big electrical lines that are coming in from the Atlantic Ocean, or the turbine blades, or the cable storage units, which I didn't know this, but it's a big deal in this industry. They need a lot of those. But what I found really fascinating was the turbine blades. I went to the town. I said, look, if we can get 1 or 2 of these guys, these suppliers in here, that could be 50 to 150 more jobs. Well, it turns out I was way off. It could be 350 to 500 more jobs, because a lot goes into making these things. They're 350 feet long. I mean, they're pretty impressive. So, long story short, there's a lot of potential out there with Cape Charles and where we're located, and bringing some labor to Northampton County. I think that the biggest thing that we're all talking about today is the education to our young people, and opening their eyes to other possibilities, and not just go to college for 4 years, get a job. Because I think we're definitely moving into a new realm of that road is now forked, right? And there's equally great opportunity on the other side.
Okay, thank you, Brandon.
Yep, that's all I got.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. You can see the diversity of growth and potential here on Eastern Shore. And thanks for sharing the reality of what's happening now, which is very impressive, and of course, what you might see for the future. The next 2 speakers are both part of workforce councils. I'm going to be introducing Jackie Davis, who is the executive director of the Career Works Bay Consortium, which has jurisdictional support responsibility for Eastern Shore. And I was going to introduce Sean Avery, who is the president CEO of the Hampton Roads Workforce Council, but unfortunately, he got a call from the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, and he was weighing with the options here, but he decided to meet with that person, but only when he had a very, very strong person to be speaking on behalf of the Hampton Roads Council, which is Steve Cook, the Chief Innovation Officer. So, Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie Davis, the Executive Director for the Bay Consortium Workforce Board. And as Dave's mentioned, the Eastern Shore is part of our 16 jurisdictions that we serve. Steve, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Steve Cook, as David mentioned earlier, I am the Chief Innovation Officer for the Hampton Roads Workforce Council, and we cover the areas from Gloucester to Williamsburg, James City County, to Southampton, Franklin, Virginia Beach, and all points in between.
You can go to the next slide. So the purpose of the workforce boards, we convene the state workforce system partners, and you'll see a slide that has all those listed. We oversee the Virginia Career Work Centers. We also help assist both job seekers and employers. We oversee directly, the workforce boards directly oversee Title I of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And you can go from the next slide. So these are the state agency workforce partners that we have. These are 8. That doesn't count our nonprofits and other organizations that we work with in our different respective areas. You can go to the next slide. So we have under Title I of WIOA, we have 3 programs: the Adult Dislocated Worker and Youth Services that we are responsible for. And on the Eastern Shore, Eastern Shore Community College holds the contract to provide these services. So to adults and dislocated workers, we provide basic career services, which include, we have access to resource rooms with computers, telephones, fax, unemployment insurance, assistance, literacy assessments, labor market information, employment listings, and workforce programs connection to those workforce programs. We also work with individuals to complete specialized plans to help make them successful in their training and their future careers. We also provide trainings to them, whether it's a work experience or an occupational skills training. We also help with on-the-job training, and we provide them with any of the supportive services that they need to help make them successful in their training as well as in their future employment. And then we follow up with these individuals for the following year to help make sure that they're successful and that that they have everything they need. You can go to the next slide. For our youth services, these are individuals who are 16 to 24. We can also provide them with work experience, high school equivalency. We also provide them with any supportive services they need. And that can include transportation, childcare, cover books and fees, or any uniforms or anything like that that they need as well. You can go to the next slide, please. So businesses are our number one customer that we have. And some of the services that we can provide to them are recruitment and screening. And we have a state workforce system, the Virginia Workforce Connection, where both employers and job seekers both register in, and they can cross-search. Businesses can search for job seekers, and job seekers can search for jobs in that system. We also provide funding to help support businesses with their onboarding of new employees with on-the-job training. We also help with some upskilling of their current workforce with incumbent worker training. And on the Eastern Shore, I think it was 2 years ago was the last time we did an incumbent worker training. And we helped one business. They needed 16 dental hygienists. It was a $14,000 training, and we were able to provide them a $7,000 reimbursement for that training. So that training only cost them $7,000. With our youth, we work with the businesses to help provide the work experience. A lot of the youth have never worked or had any work experience, and a lot of those individuals also have never seen work modeled in their home. So this is the first time they've ever seen work at all. They don't know, the basic skills. You have to show up on time. You have to work while you're there. You can't be on your cell phone, and you have to communicate with your employer. If you're going to be late or have to leave, you can't just leave or not show up. We also have some of our partners in there where we have some hiring incentives. The work opportunity tax credit is one of the huge tax credit that are one of our partners at Ministers. In 2021, they have the potential to pay out $173 million to businesses for hiring certain targeted groups, and those groups, and I'm just going to name a couple: veterans who are unemployed, disabled on SNAP benefits, or returning citizens, anyone who's receiving TANF or SNAP benefits, or someone who's been long-term unemployed. You can go to the next slide, please. And as I mentioned, Eastern Shore Community College holds our contract on the Eastern Shore to provide adult dislocated worker and youth services to the individuals on the shore. For these are the contract amounts they've had for the last 3 years, the amount of individuals they've trained, and then the areas in which they have been training individuals. And you can go to the next slide. We have a career work center on the Eastern Shore. In January, that center opened up from 10 to 3 from Monday through Friday, and they've seen 173 visitors in just that short amount of time. And our workforce services manager there has her staff back full. She has a full staff. So this Monday, she is planning on opening up back to pre-COVID hours. That next slide.
All right. Thanks, Jackie. Those are great numbers for just opening in January. Traffic coming through, we've been seeing the same thing at our offices, an increase in traffic. So that's a positive thing for all of us as we start moving into 2022. Basically, I'm here to just kind of supplement what Jackie mentioned in her report. We do pretty much everything that Jackie just said as well. And you can see the industries that we focus on in the Hampton Roads region. Our area, I mentioned for our Workforce Development Board is pretty extensive. Our Go Virginia area does include the Eastern Shore, and so I wanted to make sure you know that. And we are working with Patrick and Scott and Jim over at the Eastern Shore Community College on some different initiatives along with Jackie and what she's doing. So you can see all of the industries there. I don't need to walk through each of them, but as you can imagine, with almost 1.8 million people in our MSA, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of need for trained employees. And so that's what we're focused on a daily basis here at the Hampton Roads Workforce Council, working with our employers, making sure that they have the training and the resources needed to get the people that they need. And we do that a variety of different ways. So if you can go to the next slide. We've got a number of different programs to make sure that we are really reaching all aspects of our community. You can see from these titles that are pretty self-explanatory. We've just recently opened up another Veterans Employment Center in Newport News at the Oyster Point area. And we have one in Norfolk at our military circle office as well. And that really is a significant effort put behind that with private sector funding. The one in Newport News, we got a $300,000 grant from Smithfield Foods to open up that facility. And so to make sure that we are connecting with those folks that are transitioning out of the military, our veterans, and those families, those military families, to offer them the resources that they need, and to offer companies the resources to make sure that they're in touch with those transitioning folks that could get into our workforce. Next Gen is our youth services. We've got a very comprehensive youth services program, really to change that dynamic of college versus working in industry right out of high school. Very strong program in all areas here in Hampton Roads, and really working on beefing that up as well. And we are working with Campus 757, which is does work with our college students, and really it's a program to make sure that it's really a talent attraction program to make sure that we're keeping those college students that are here in our region and also going elsewhere but live in our region, to give them a reason to stay here versus going elsewhere. So we're making sure that we're connecting them with opportunities, internship opportunities, just kind of opportunities to really understand what the region is about and why it's a good place to stay and work. And then there's some other programs. Network to Work really is a program where we're connecting connecting people with the financial opportunities, the understanding, the resources to get back into the workplace. And Bridge 757 is really a financial opportunity center to get them set up to make sure that they're focused on what they need to be doing to make their career work in a more productive manner. And we do all of that through our career work centers. We've got multiple career work centers in the region. Those offer the services that Jackie mentioned that they just opened up in Eastern Shore in January. Next slide. I want to, again, I mentioned our Next Gen services. You can see that we're very, very proactive in that. We have some great programs that we work with, and we want to, that's part of where we want to work with Jackie on getting some of these kind of activities out into the Eastern Shore school systems very slowly, but we want to make sure that there are these types of opportunities available as well. Next slide. Mentioned Campus 757. You can see what it's all about, but really, we're really working to make sure that our students have opportunities here in the region. When they come back in the summer, we want them to have the ability to work with local companies. We want our local companies to really kind of open up and give them a reason to be staying here versus going off to more different areas. And it really is a concentrated effort. It's a fantastic one. Our website, we've got a short website, campus757.org, that has some basic information on it. We're looking to open up our new website here probably in the next 3 weeks with more information. Next. Brandon mentioned the offshore wind effort. We are very much involved in that when it comes to the workforce side. We chair the state's Commonwealth Workforce Offshore Wind Workforce Task Force. Scott and Patrick are part of that from the Eastern Shore Community College. And, we are really looking to make sure that we've got the pipeline in place to meet the demands of the industry that's going to be coming here, our supply chain that's going to be coming here. I'm sure all of you have heard about the opportunities that are going to be off the coast of Virginia Beach, but it goes even further than that. There's another project off of North Carolina, and there's going to be more up and down the East Coast that Hampton Roads will be able to take full advantage of. And when I say Hampton Roads, that include the Eastern Shore. So it's an all-inclusive project, and we're making sure that everybody's at the table to make sure that we're all talking about what's coming down in this area and make sure that we're prepared for that. We also have a program we call our talent alignment strategy, and that's really trying to build and fulfill the gaps of a lot of different industries in our region. We're focusing right now on the maritime because of the substantial activity that's going on around that right now. Brandon mentioned the shipyard. I mean, we've got ship repair, shipbuilding. It's a huge industry at Newport News Shipbuilding. They've got over 25,000. I think it might be up to 26,000 now employees in Newport News building ships and the submarines. So we want to make sure that we're fulfilling the gaps that to meet those needs, and working with our educational partners and working with the business community and figuring that out and what we need to be due to staging us as we move into the next 5, 10, 20 years to make sure that we're meeting those needs from all those folks that are retiring and making sure that those training opportunities are available for high school students, for and our college and our young folks as we move down that road. Next.
Jack, you're going to cover that? Or?
Yep, I'm going to cover that. And if Steve wants to chime in at any time, he's more than welcome. We are getting ready to do some industry-specific roundtables. Businesses in the area within the next day or so should start receiving some emails about these roundtables from our workforce services manager, Jamie Replugal. So if you see an email from her, please respond if you are wanting to participate. And basically, these are going to be very informal, discussion based. We just want to know what the business needs are, what their challenges are, and we're going to try to figure out how we can help these businesses. If it's a training need, we're going to look to our community college because they are strong on the Eastern Shore, and we want to make sure that they are included. And then if we can't, we'll look to see if we can figure out other ways to fulfill the needs of these businesses. Also, with filling the needs for the businesses and individuals, I've been in some discussions with our workforce services manager on the Eastern Shore. Our center is currently located in Accomack County. We are looking to how we can better serve the individuals of Northampton County. So we're looking to bring some of the services to Northampton County. We're in the very, very early stages of trying to figure out those details. We're also have some hiring events that we want to plan over the next few months as well. So we're working on those things. Also, in partnership with Hampton Roads, I think, Steve, Sean, and I, we work really well together. We talk quite a bit. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's our workforce board or their board that serves the people. It's that the people are served and that they're served well. And that's the main thing that we're looking at. And it doesn't matter where the services come from, because I don't think the individuals or the businesses care who they come from. They just want them.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for sharing it. I think the Eastern Shore is very fortunate to really have two kind of workforce councils, both with interest in participating with each other and also sharing resources with the Eastern Shore. And it's our challenge then to make sure that we fully leverage that. And And we've come to the end of our hour, and we had promised that it would be an hour. We didn't want to have the people who registered to be, that actually our objective, and the stairs going up with is really showing it's really a bridge from where we are, and continue to maintain and accelerate the development of our workforce here using these resources. Three things are occurring. Before I say that, there are those that ask some questions in the chat room. We really are not able to have a response to that at this moment, but there are two options. One is you can contact the speaker. The information is on the last page of the PowerPoint that you received in registration, or we will also capture the chat questions and to our best degree respond to those. There are three things happening. As Jackie had mentioned, there's a central convenings in February. There's also a regional workforce survey that was referred to. And then there's going to be a follow-up, actually a collaborative follow-up with the Eastern Shore Community College and the chambers in late March. We thank everyone for attending and participating in the forum, and hope there was some real value and some real information here that would be valuable to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. It was great.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thanks.